joining us online. My name is Raina Bick, and I'm your worship associate for today. I want you to know that you're welcome to this community, Unitarian Universalist congregation of Flint, and that all are welcome here. We consider ourselves a progressive LGBTQ plus affirming religious community in which people are encouraged to be themselves. If you'd like more information about our faith traditions or this particular congregation, please feel free to talk to one of our ministers, Lynn or Kerr, and their contact information can be found at uuflint.org. Especially welcome and invite visitors who may not know that we usually have a very delightful coffee hour downstairs with good snacks, sometimes healthy, sometimes not, and coffee, tea, and some other beverages, plus wonderful conversation. Please consider joining us and learning more about us, and talk to any of our members. Most of us remember to wear our name tags. Sorry, I don't have mine on yet today, but that's how you kind of know who we are. You may also sign up for our weekly email newsletter by visiting our website, scanning the QR code on the back of the order of service, or by completing this beautiful card that you'll find in the chair back near your pews. We promise not to bother you too much. You get a weekly email update about things that are happening here. Please see the back of our order of service for today, where we typically print many of our coming events. And this place is hopping and popping over the next month. Are we busy? Please, before I announce those, I ask you to grab your cell phones if you haven't already done so, and either silence them, but consider, after silencing them, going to our UU channel, and then where it says like us, click on the thumbs up icon. These things make it more likely that when people go searching online, they might see the Flint congregation's website and learn more about us. And we can share our message of compassion, inclusion, reason, love with more folks. It's needed in this world. Announcements. Please remember, Mustard's Retreat has its 50th anniversary show here in this space, Saturday, March 29th. That's coming up soon. But it's not going to be in the evening, 3 o'clock. We've gone to several afternoon concerts of the folk tradition, and I'm amazed at how many of us older folks and even young folks are showing up. We've gone to Ann Arbor, and they're trying this time slot because we love their music, but some of us don't drive at night anymore. So bring your friends, come on out, bring family. We promise it'll be a wonderful show. You can get tickets today, I'm sure, and we need some help. So Terry Cross, I don't see her this morning, but she'll be here, I'm sure. She needs some help. Maybe it's an hour setting up tables the day before or early in the day, or clean up after the event. We will have beverages and a very fun, long intermission where we can share snacks and goodies and say hi to many of our friends from that music-loving community that's a combination of folk, bluegrass, and pop. On Saturday, April 5th, our congregation will host a grieving for our government vigil and town hall meeting gathering for everyone who is concerned about what's happening with our leadership in Washington. Please look for more information on the back of our, I don't see it on here. It starts at 2 p.m., Lynn? Yeah, 2 p.m., and barring any significant conflicts or need to be in Washington, D.C., which is our intent, our belief that Kristen McDonald-Rivette, our Congresswoman, will be there to answer questions and suggest a course of action. If she cannot be here, their staff members will be here to answer questions, talk about strategy, help you understand what you can do. You can help advertise this event by picking up flyers from the table at the back and posting them or sharing them with online friends, and family. Next, we have a reminder about our Canvas theme this year. Tree Roots have many spiritual meetings, including nourishment, support, stability, and connection. All of these are in our theme for this year's Canvas, entitled Rooted in Love, Justice, and Reason. Please give some consideration to your pledge for this next fiscal year and participate in house gatherings or gatherings here at the church. And there are announcements for those events were in the email update, and we have sign up again today. Okay, look for someone downstairs if you'd like to come. It's a way to share your concerns, your ideas of what this community should do now and going forward into the future. You can drop your pledge form off to the office or to one of our ministers. We would like them returned by April 6th. Also, there will be a short Canvas gathering today at noon in the sanctuary. If you've not signed up for one of these home gatherings, that's the spot where you'll find that sign-up sheet. Just come here at noon. If you can't be at any of the home gatherings, but still want to be heard, and you can talk to Sue Kinsey downstairs after the service to arrange for same. Next, Tales and Tunes. For those of you who are new, I take it as kind of a nod to the Moth Story Hour. And we have people who share funny, sometimes poignant, sometimes sad but funny. They often go together stories about where they've journeyed in their lives, followed with music. And this is a fundraiser. We have a silent auction and a lot of fun. So we take this as kind of like a picnic. You get to bring your own lawn chair if you like, and you can bring your own cooler with your favorite beverage, and we just have a fun time. If you have a story, I think you should consider telling it. Next, Jerry and Lynn will be speaking at this year's Genesee County Interfaith Breakfast on April 24th. It's sponsored by Gift of Life, Michigan, and just go to your email update to learn how to register. As you know, we have a wonderful member who have received a kidney from another wonderful member here, and we have a personal story about what transplant can bring. Please talk to either of those people, Deb Gustafson or Bonnie Pobosic. I don't see Bonnie here today, about this journey that they've made together and how it has, I believe, transformed both of their lives. Really? Register so they know how many to plan for, but we can make a donation, I'm sure. Okay, to Gift of Life of Michigan. And with that, we transition to our program. We, the member congregations of the Unitarian Universalist Association, covenant to affirm and promote the inherent worth and dignity of every person. I'm sorry, I forgot our covenant today. So if you will join me, is often my habit up here is to share the history of this covenant because we have so many new folks here. This covenant was generated by people coming together in their homes and just talking about what they believe, what they believed would be the principles that would bind us together as a caring community. So each of these phrases were carefully honed and written over a course of about 3 to 4 months, and then we voted on this covenant. It's not like the kind of creeds or beliefs you have to say, I absolutely believe in this. It's a free expression of our commitment to being together and sort of the rules in which we try to live in covenant with each other. So please join me in reading this. Recognizing the richness of the beauty and wonder of shared worship, and the transforming power of love and service, we gather as a sacred, intentional community to freely seek knowledge and truth, to celebrate the fullness of life, and by our actions to increase goodness and justice. Amen and blessed be.
To worship means to consider that which is of worth. Today we consider with gratitude the many gifts of this community. The opportunity to be affirmed in who we are and to offer that affirmation to others. The chance to stand up together to help remake the world in the ideal of justice. The freedom to choose one's own path to truth and to learn from the travelogues of others who see our world through the lens of love. Please stand if you are willing and able. Making You can sit if you like. After our words for meditation and our time of silence, you'll be invited to come forward and light a candle of joy or concern if you choose to do so, or you can also do that at the back. And if you'd like to write down your joy or concern there in one of the books, we'll make sure it gets into our weekly e-newsletter. Put your house in order. Human beings can only truly cherish a limited number of things at one time. Cherish properly the things that you love. One important task for the rest of your life is choosing what to discard and choosing what to keep, and caring for the things you decide to keep. Pour your passion and time into what brings you the most joy. Find your mission in life. Put your house in order, and that mission will speak to your heart. Life truly begins after you put your house in order. Let us enjoy our time of silence.
The one thing you'd save is a fictional story about a teacher who asks her middle school class to share what single object they would save in case of a fire if their family and their pets were already safe. Here are some of their ideas.
This is easy. I'd walk out with nothing. Not a dang thing. Come see, the place is a total dump. Be a great day for me to see it burn down.
It'd be my laptop, the whole universe on a 13-inch screen. It's like having an extra brain. Besides, they cost a bomb. Just makes sense to pick something expensive over something cheap.
One thing. I've got so much stuff. My books for a start, my graphic novels and my manga. Heck, my Neil deGrasse Tyson. That's 7 books all by themselves. I couldn't pick a favorite. Oh man, I hate this. I can't decide.
I went to the ocean once. So big it made me feel small, but in a good way. All the bad stuff felt small too. I found a shell there, a whole one. It wasn't chipped or cracked. It wasn't very big, but it was perfect. And I kept it in my pocket, and I trace the swirl with my finger whenever I don't feel so great. And it makes me think of the ocean, waves washing out the bad stuff in my head. Some of it anyway.
My gran knitted a sweater for my dad. He wore it and wore it and wore it right out. Then my other gran, who lives with us, unraveled it and knitted me a new sweater from it. So I'd save that sweater. When I'm wearing it, it's kind of like all 3 of them are keeping me warm.
If it's daytime, I'd grab the program of the Mets-Cubs game I went to last summer that was signed by the best player ever. But if the fire is at night, I'd have to grab my glasses because without them, I don't think I'd ever find the door.
This might sound dumb. I know they're just sneakers, but they are the coolest sneakers on the planet. It's not exactly them, but me saving every cent for months and months. Except I forgot about the bleeping sales tax. When Mom saw my face, she came through for me. They were so clean and shiny, I almost didn't want to wear them. If there's a fire, I put those on my feet, and it's like, see ya later, fire.
There's a box on my mom's nightstand. Inside, wrapped up real careful, is a little curl of brown hair. My brother's, it's Anthony's. He'd be 8 now, if he were alive. His heart didn't work right. I don't remember him much. I'd get a hold of that box, and I'd run.
Shoot. What Sophia said about her brother, now I can't say what I was going to say. It's way worse to lose a brother than a dog, but I miss Prince. Him waiting at the window for me, acting like it was years since he'd seen me instead of just a few hours. He never doubted me. I shouldn't let him down. Okay, I'll say it. I'd grab his collar from my top drawer because it still smells like him.
That sweater, it made me think about my gran. There's a really old photo of her with her husband before they were married. I never knew him. That's what I should save, right? But I gotta be honest, I'm like 100% sure I'd grab my phone and run.
I have a great idea. You take a bunch of pictures of that picture with your phone. And then, if there's a fire, you'd have both.
I think I'd take my philodendron.
Do you talk to it? Because then maybe it counts as a pet.
I don't talk to it, but it's special. It grew from a cutting of my mom's plant, and that grew from a cutting from my mom's plant.
That sounds like the sweater and the photo.
Ms. Chang, even though you said it could be any size, the thing that we save, I think I want to change my answer. Remember when I said I wanted the grand piano?
Some boys kiss me, some boys hug me, I think they're okay. If they don't give me proper credit, I just walk away. They can beg and they can plead, but they can't see the light. That's right. 'Cause the boy with cold hard cash is always Mr. Right. 'Cause we are living in a material world, and I am a material girl. You know that we are living in a material world, and I am a material girl. Some boys romance, some boys slow dance, that's alright with me. If they can't raise my interest, then I have to let them be. Some boys try and some boys lie, but I don't let them play. No way. Only boys that save their pennies make my rainy day. 'Cause we are living in a material world, and I am a material girl. You know that we are living in a material world, and I am a material girl. You know that we are living in a material world, and I am a material girl. You know we are living in a material world, and I am a material girl.
How I Avoided the Draft was the first film that 84-year-old David Hoffman ever made. He went on to have a career in filmmaking that includes over 175 projects. He's maybe best known for Sputnik Fever, Making Sense of the 60s, and Sing Sing Thanksgiving, which was released in 1974. Sing Sing Thanksgiving featured B.B. King and his 26-piece band playing for 1,200 inmates at Sing Sing Prison in 1972. King said it was one of the greatest shows he ever did. Not only did the film highlight the music, but for one of the first times it included footage and interviews about daily life inside the prison. That original footage, plus all the film clips and awards like Emmys, a Peabody, and a Cannes Film Festival prize were all destroyed in a fire in 2008. Like the school kids in the reading this morning, most of us have time ahead of time to think about what possessions we value most and would want to save if there were a fire. But by the time that David Hoffman got to his Santa Cruz, California home and studio, only his wife and sons were saved from his fire. When he lost 45 years worth of work, collectibles, photos, books, an extensive LP collection, letters, and notes on future films, he was sick. He sat down in the rubble in shock. Then it occurred to him that there might be something salvageable in that pile. He called his sister, his friends, his neighbors to help him dig. They attacked the pile like mad people, he said. They found almost unidentifiable negatives and prints, crispy memorabilia, and a melted camera lens he had used to shoot Bob Dylan. He recalls thinking that his only legacy he had had for his family had been completely destroyed. After about 20 minutes, Hoffman asked himself, "Am I my things?" Most of us would likely answer that no, we are not our possessions. But stop to think about how many things that we describe as my house, my car, my clothes. In the Western world, we often think of our things as part of our identity. Material possessions are firmly attached to how we see ourselves. Advertisers consequently appeal to our need to see ourselves or be seen by others in a particular way. Drive a Lincoln Continental and you too could be as hot as actor Matthew McConaughey. Marketers play upon the constant desire for consumers to acquire more and better things to keep up. People often make purchases they think will add to their sense of self, according to Eckhart Tolle. Tolle's a German scholar who has become an internationally known spiritual teacher in Eastern philosophies. He's also written a number of best-selling books, particularly about materialism and the ego. So he calls these purchases not products that we buy, but identity enhancers. He said these identity enhancers contribute to the image we are trying to portray. When it doesn't work, he says, we inevitably seek more and more useless things. Now, I want you to know that I am not saying that it is wrong to cherish or honor certain possessions. But if we begin to think that I am my things, our possessions have become obstructions to our good mental and even physical health. David Hoffman questioned the importance he was placing on his physical things after briefly sorting through the rubble of his studio. Now, it's a point that takes many people years or maybe even a lifetime to reach. Now, granted, he had no choice but to deeply examine his life because he lost everything in a matter of minutes. And it is true that because of who he was and with his wealth, he could probably replace most everything of material value. But he lost things that money could not replace. While he sat there and was feeling that his life was over, he heard the voice of his mother from when he was a kid. Make something good out of something bad, she had said. He said an epiphany hit him. He told everyone digging to collect identifiable bits and pieces, even if they were burned. He wasn't sure how, but he said, I'm going to turn this into something good. In 8 days, he was recording a TED Talk to help others who might be dealing with sudden and devastating loss. Next, he sought the help of a local artist in Santa Cruz, California. Bringing boxes of his precious melted and charred items to the artist's studio, Hoffman asked the artist if he could learn to create art with the remains. The resulting sculptures he made and their stories were exhibited at a local art museum. But Hoffman told everyone the work was simply a cathartic act for him. This is one of his pieces. Hoffman, though, still wanted to recreate the legacy for his family that he thought he had lost. He gathered portions of images in negatives and photographs, used home movies, and then interviewed himself to make a documentary about his life. It is filled with moving memories of his career, but also nostalgic family history. I do recommend the film. It's called Surviving My Own California Fire, and you can find it on YouTube. Hoffman's resilience made me reconsider how I might retain family memories. I was especially interested because I discovered that I have something called future sentimentality, and my son does not. So future sentimentality describes how we might assign value to an item because it belonged to someone special, and then we want to pass it on to another person who will value it in a certain way, just like we did. Unfortunately, it obligates that next person to cherish the item and the story behind it. So I think I must have inherited this belief from my mother, and she must have inherited it from her mother. But at some point, someone instilled in me that if you discard such items, it is disrespecting that person's memory, and consequently, you've disrespected your own history and identity. Now, I hadn't really given this a lot of thought until last summer. Now, our son, as many of you know, was preparing to move to Chicago, and we were in the garage sorting through boxes. And it wasn't long before I saw him throw a collage that I had made for him his freshman year of high school in the trash pile. So the collage was things that I had put together in a frame of things from that reminded him and me of the first play he was ever in. So I rushed over, I grabbed it out of the pile, and I said, "Oops, you accidentally threw this away." And then I said, "You were so good in that play. Do you remember?" Everyone said, and then he cut me off. "Mom, this is not going to work. You're too sentimental," he said. Crushing. How could he be so unattached to these precious memories. I took the frame, I held it to my chest, and I reluctantly went back into the house as he asked. And I did what pretty much any mother, I think, would do, and I went and cried in his bedroom, which was now pretty much empty. So, yes, I admit, I'm sentimental about important stuff. If you knew my relatives, though, I think you'd understand. Now, you've probably known someone like my grandmother. So she was a young mother during the Depression, and I think that might account for some of her, let's say, peculiarities. So she saved weird things. So her kitchen was full of plastic milk carton rings, you know, the first part that you take off the top? Yeah. Okay. Mesh fruit bags, the plastic ones that, like, you know, oranges come in. Empty bread bags with the crumbs had been emptied. And twist ties. Okay. And then, and if you ever asked her about anything she saved, she'd say, you never know when these are going to come in handy. No upstairs surface in her little tiny pink house, and it was pink, was not covered with a trip memento, a collectible, an antique, or a piece of costume jewelry that she usually had made. And then there was the basement. The basement had 3 walls covered, floor to ceiling, in bolts, and I'm talking bolts, of fabric in every color and material imaginable. And then there was additional bins that had every color of thread and any type of button you could ever need in a lifetime. Now, when the grandkids, like me, needed clothes or it was our birthday, Grandma would say to us, let's go shopping. But you didn't leave the house. That meant you went around the house and you picked something you liked, or you went downstairs and you looked at the fabric and you picked out something you liked, and she'd create a pattern, and she'd make you a stuffed animal or even safari clothing you needed. And it was all done in one visit. So I used to go on annual cross-country vacations with my grandparents for many years. It started when I was 5 years old. Without my parents, I'd just go with them. It broke my mother's heart that I was able to leave at 5 years old and go with my grandparents. So I was really close to my grandparents. And knowing this, my mom started sending me little packages after my grandma died with carefully wrapped mementos belonging to my grandma. And they would be wrapped in tissue paper, and on the outside with a pen, she would write, this was Grandma's. And I did cherish them. And when my son was real little, we'd unwrap them, and then I'd tell him the story that was associated with whatever was inside. 30 years later, I was still getting packages. But now they weren't just Grandma's, they were, you know, other relatives' memories, and sometimes some of her stuff too. So eventually I thought, my mother must be out of things by now. But a visit a little over a year ago proved me wrong. Her spare bedroom was covered with racks of stuff just like Grandma's. So I came home, and a few weeks later, I knew that I was going to have to break the news to her that Jerry and I could not take one more thing into the house, even if they belonged to a beloved deceased relative. But I was a little reluctant because I had been hurt by my son's disinterest in my precious memories, but I knew this had to be done, and Jerry was pretty firm about it. So I said, Jerry and I are downsizing. This means, I said, we are trying to prepare for living 6 months out of the year in a 40 by 8-foot trailer on wheels in a campground. The other 6 months of the year, we will be on the road in something even smaller. That sunk in. But then it hit me too. I had some serious work to do at home. It wasn't going to be quite this bad, which says it's not a really small apartment. We're still in the elevator. But it's not much bigger than an elevator. So in preparation for our extreme downsizing, I've just begun, to go through cabinets and drawers and closets. And some of you have heard about my excitement around this. But where do you start, right? Well, there's a number of books and articles and philosophies out there that tell you how to go about getting rid of things. So there's the Eckhart Tolle's no attachment Buddhist perspective, but that says we detach from everything. Well, that's not realistic for me. So then there's the Marie Kondo's magic of tidying up, but she tells us that you take an object and you say, does this bring me joy? And then that's when you decide to keep it or not keep it. But she recommends that you do this all in one big fell swoop, right? I want you to do it all at once. You can't do one weekend and another part this weekend. Well, I can't do that either. So I've been using kind of something that I made up with kind of a hybrid, but I use partly Gail Blank's clearing the clutter method of throwing out 50 things, 50. I want to share a little bit about my struggle. I want you to be gentle because I'm really exposing myself here. Okay. So this is my nightstand. This is a before on the left and an after on my right. Now, believe it or not, on the left there, I had trouble closing that a lot. You can't really tell, but it was all the way to the top. So, and so I, occasionally just kind of push down on it to try to close it. So, so my nightstand contents, these are the things I kept. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9 things, not bad. And I want to show you a total of 50 things, 50 that I got rid of. Used dental picks. And now, I got rid of a New Yorker from last year. I'm probably missing a really good article because I threw that away. This one, I had a to-do list from last year. Now, I didn't have everything crossed off that. I might have to go back and look for that. The bread bag twisty. Now, my grandmother would have told me not to throw that out. And the do not remove tag from a pillow. Apparently, I was brave enough to take the tag off, but not brave enough to throw it away. Yeah. And I don't have an excuse for any of those. Yeah, those all just had to go. Well, then I had things where, a lot of times the books and the articles only talk about getting rid of things, and I've kind of found some satisfaction in just putting things where they belong, put like things with like things, organizing. So I found some money. I found $1 or $2 in loose change, and I found something worth money. I found a 1908 nickel. You probably don't even know what those look like, and it is worth a little bit of money. I found a small antique pillbox that was my grandma's that I want to save, and it doesn't hardly take up any space. Look at that. I mean, I can keep that. Oh, and I found another sort of antique. It was Jerry's senior ID to get into national parks. That's antique, or he is anyway. So some treasures there. And then lastly, I came up with things that I can donate. So you can, there's some good stuff there. You might see some of those on the free table downstairs. Well, luckily, it's not a tragedy forcing me to let go of things, but retirement coming up. But whether that or just moving to a smaller place or needing to move somewhere due to health concerns or financial reasons, at some point, most of us either have or will have to significantly reduce the amount of things we have. And it means hard decisions about letting go of our most precious possessions. So you ask, what will you keep? What will you give away to family members or friends? What will you donate? What will you sell? What goes in the trash? Or will you just leave it all and let somebody else deal with it after you're gone? That I do not recommend. I've had relatives do that, and it also leads to some family arguments and resentments. And I hope that my mother purges before she's gone. Now, some of you have told me that you've already gone through your things, or you've started to, and that, it's painful at first, but it gets easier, I hope. And I have found that too. It's been getting easier, but every once in a while, I come across something, but then I have to remind myself that my son does not want my junk. Well, that was really apparent a couple of years ago. So I really love to decorate at Christmas, and he was there, and he looked around at all the beautiful Christmas decorations. Even Jerry says I have too many. And he said, when you die, he's not shy. He said, all I want is this. And he pointed to this metal tabletop reindeer that Jerry and I have had since we've been married. And I blurted out, what? You don't want your great-grandmother's ornaments that she brought all the way from Poland 120 years ago? Nah, he said. Okay. But then 2 years later, he has a partner. Now, on Christmas, he said, oh, by the way, we do want the Polish ornaments and great-grandma's secretary. Score 2 for me. Now, of course, for thousands of years, giving up material possessions has been seen as a prerequisite to have the ultimate spiritual transformation. So you might think that's what I'm trying to do. No. In other words, today's service is about an eternal wisdom. And you probably remember the story. Before the Buddha was a great enlightened being and teacher, he was a prince in a fabulous palace with extreme wealth. And then he was exposed to poverty and age and death, and he was filled with compassion, and he realized that all of his possessions and wealth were just illusions of permanence, and he abandoned everything so that he could become a penniless but enlightened monk. And that was how non-attachment was born. In addition to Buddhism, there are a number of religions and philosophies in ancient times that observed asceticism, including some Greek schools, forms of Hinduism, Christian monastic traditions, and some forms of Islam and Hinduism. The practitioners were encouraged to abandon all pleasures, and they believed you got pleasure from possessions, and that would leave them open to a connection to either divinity or an inner peace. Often they saw that material possessions were just a distraction from achieving authentic spiritual growth. Now today, some people and religions have circled back a little bit to those old ways, not just for strengthening our personal spiritual transformation, because world religions more and more are rejecting sort of this idea of extreme materialism as an affront to natural creation and see it simply as a means of destroying both ourselves and the earth. So knowing how important non-attachment is doesn't in any way suggest that it's not a challenge. And for me personally, my son was right, I am sentimental. So how do I cope with that and respect my son's ability to practice non-attachment? So I learned a trick from the experts that I'd like to share. When I come across something that I would normally say, oh, I must save this for my son, I take a picture of it and then decide, trash or donate. My hope is that eventually I will make an album with all of these pictures, and each one will have a story that I will write that will go along with it. He will not be burdened with boxes of trash or things that he thinks are trash, but instead a little compact album that still have the memories, still have the pictures of the things. And my memories will not be lost, the things will not be lost forever. And by the way, I did come across the collage, and I didn't cry this time, I took a picture of it. So, I'm not insinuating, though, that I'm not saving anything, of course. Son's first pair of shoes, saved. Grandma's wedding band, saved. But the things I choose to take a picture of for my son or for me are not lost, and now they'll have those written histories to go along with them. And the things that I have been able to part with, I now know that when I throw them away, I'm not throwing me away with them. My identity, my history remains here. I fully expect to have a satisfying and fulfilling retirement with a lot less things. I'm sure you're happy about that. But I'm not going to feel any less me. And wouldn't you know, just as I was feeling all righteous, I found that David Hoffman, our filmmaker, his lessons were not over. He experienced yet another significant loss just a few months ago. He had a debilitating stroke. And like before, decided to make something good of it. He is filming his slow but sure recovery. You can find Hoffman on YouTube, beautifully struggling to read a poem as part of his therapy. His resilience and his words are inspiring. Hoffman only transforms his life into something more beautiful with every loss he faces. He continues to help thousands, including myself, as we learn that the more things we possess, the less we are. We are not the things that we own or the images that they portray. He teaches us that less is almost always more.
Stand if you like. That is our life. We sing our thanks and praise. For our life is a gift we are called to use to build the common good and make our own days glad. For need would
we come to our time for generosity. The purpose of this faith community is to encourage all who gather here to grow more generously in spirit and in action. This is the great end of all of the world's faith traditions, to bring human beings closer together to the divine and the divine of creation and compassion. So we now ask you to consider an offering that will allows us to exercise that all-important generosity of spirit. An offering that will support this self-supporting church and its many ministries. We hope that you will place your offerings at the back of the church in the basket as you leave, or consider making an online gift at uuflint.org. We appreciate all you give, time, talent, and treasure. Amen. Blessed be.
It is a miracle that no one is ever empty-handed. There is enormous power in having no possessions but the self to give and to receive what can be and become.
And let us extinguish the chalice. We extinguish this flame, but not the light of truth, the warmth of community, or the fire of commitment. These we carry in our hearts until we are gathered again.
Can't buy me love, love can't buy me love. I'll buy you diamond ring, my friend, if it makes you feel alright. I'll get you anything, my friend, if it makes you feel alright. 'Cause I don't care too much for money, money can't buy me love. I'll give you all I got to give if you say you love me true. I may not have a lot to give, but what I got I'll give to you. 'Cause I don't care too much for money, money can't buy me love, can't buy me love. Everybody tells me so, can't buy me love. No, 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 no. Say you don't need no diamond rings, and I'll be satisfied. Tell me that you want the kind of things that money just can't buy. 'Cause I don't care too much for money, money can't buy me love, can't buy me love. Everybody tells me so, can't buy me love. No, 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 no. Say you don't need no diamond rings, and I'll be satisfied. Tell me that you want the kind of things that money just can't buy. 'Cause I don't care too much for money, money can't buy me love, can't buy me love.